And it is the Saturday Coffee Klatch with Heather Lofthouse and yours truly, Robert Reich. And Heather, this has been a heavy week.
Ooh.
I mean, every week has been a heavy week, but this one has been particularly heavy. What are we going to talk about? What have you chosen as our topics?
I've chosen, well, the broad one is the Trump regime says up yours to higher education and the rest of the world.
Well, it's been saying it to the rest of the world and higher education and to everything. But
this week was particularly starting on. So on Thursday, we had Noem send a letter to Harvard that basically said you're no longer allowed to enroll any foreign students. But then yesterday, there was a temporary restraining order saying maybe that isn't allowed to proceed.
From a judge in Boston.
That's it.
This thing is going on, and the Trump regime is escalating its attack on Harvard and indirectly higher education. I mean, Harvard is the easy target because it's so big and so prominent, but this is every president, every university, and every set of trustees knows this is coming or this is already on them. But Harvard is particularly insidious because foreign students or international students make up more than 25% of all the students at Harvard. And the tradition has been, Harvard gets the best minds and the best professors and best students in the world. Everybody wants to go to Harvard, and the United States gets the benefit of all of these.
That's it.
And to stay to Harvard, you can't do that anymore. Just like that, overnight. Is not only stupid in terms of the needs and values of the United States, but Heather, it is also the hallmark of a dictatorship. I mean, it's this arbitrary, sudden, out of nowhere dictate. I mean, this is what dictators do.
I know.
It shocked me. It really did.
I bet. And so it's not only a gut punch to Harvard because international students, are a cash cow famously. Lots of money, more money comes in from international students. So anyone in academic administration knows that. But the way we build knowledge, all of these many graduate students who are working on incredible research across the sciences, social sciences, all over the place, it's such a miss, and it's such a miss for the globe and for America and for the individual research labs, the students. I mean, I've worked in academia before, and there was always efforts to cross-pollinate with other researchers, cultures on purpose because there was a bigger hole because of it.
Absolutely. I've been a professor for most of the time for the last 44 years. And the idea that you don't want international students, or you don't want international professors, that you suddenly can close down the knowledge that is a global network and a global community is the worst nativism.
Yeah.
I mean, it's both arbitrary, it is a dictatorship, it is nativist and isolationist. It's the worst of every aspect of the Trump being and the Trump administration. It's not just Noem. I mean, this is the entire administration.
Did you read the letter? Because the letter said, because you all have created an unsafe environment.
Oh, unsafe. This is bullshit. This is
the party of January 6th.
Yes.
This is the party of we don't need to give vaccines for measles.
I mean, they are the party of unsafety. I mean, if there was any group of people...
How about in the big, beautiful bill, they snuck in stuff about silencers for guns, going to make it easier to get those? I mean,
they don't care. They don't care about safety. And they don't care. They're using the pretext of safety, they're using the pretext of anti-Semitism, whatever pretext they can find. They want to control American universities. And the idea, this is the authoritarian playbook, Heather. Mm-hmm. This is, you take a look at Hungary and Viktor Orban, you take a look at every dictatorship that has been elected legitimately and wants to take over and end democracy. This is what they do. They take over the universities. They decide what the universities are going to teach. They take over the schools. They decide what the schools are going to teach. They take over all the intermediary institutions of society, the law firms, the museums, the everything that you can think of.
The press,
the media. Absolutely. And this is what this administration is doing because Republicans in Congress are basically are basically zombies. I mean, they will let the administration do whatever it wants.
Right.
They're afraid of being primaried. They are rubber stamps. They might as well not even be there. Why do they even collect their checks? Why do they even go into their offices?
Well, so the big beautiful bill passed the House this week, but there was lots of video of two of the representatives were asleep. It was all happening.
And that
reminds me of that.
Well, the big beautiful bill. So it really should be called the big ugly, disgusting
Hideous.
bill.
I know.
Because that bill, I mean, don't get me started.
Well, I'm going to get you started. Let's go.
Well, it is
the
largest redistribution of income and wealth in American history, from the poor and the working class to the ultra rich and the extremely rich. I mean, if you are earning under $17,000 a year, I mean, you're really just barely getting by. I mean, you're relying on. You are going to actually lose $1,000 a year
on average.
On average, can you imagine? And if you are in the top 0.1%, the richest 1/10%, you are going to do better by $390,000 a year. It is absolutely extraordinary.
And regressive. I mean, we're stealing from the poor to give to the rich?
We're stealing from the poor and the working class, because a lot of these programs that are being cut back, Medicaid, Medicare, even food stamps, and nutrition assistance and so on, the working class also depends on.
Huge cuts, I know.
I mean, these are huge cuts that people depend on. All to give, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and that crowd and Mark Zuckerberg and the people who were there at the inauguration, all to give them hundreds of thousands of dollars more per year.
As their wealth goes up, I know.
And this is, if Americans understood this, and I think the problem is that Trump lies so much about it, and he's just a consummate liar every time he talks about it. And every other Republican lies about it, and Fox News lies about it, and all the right-wing media lie about it. So how does the average American know that average American is being shafted for the sake of this huge siphoning off of money to the very top?
There's lying about it, but then there's all the fog and distraction happening at the same time, which makes it even harder to get through.
There's a poison pill in this so-called big, beautiful, ugly, disgusting bill. And that poison pill would remove the ability of the federal courts.
This is scary.
Well, I haven't even said it yet.
I know. I read it in your Substack.
It gets more scary.
I read it in your Substack.
It removes the ability of the federal courts to hold the administration in contempt of court for failing to follow a court order. Now, what we have right now is we've got all of these district courts, all over America, that have said to the administration, no, you can't do that. And we're putting a temporary restraining order, we're putting an injunction, you can't do that.
Right.
And even the Supreme Court has said, you've got to facilitate bringing back Abrego Garcia, because he was erroneously, he's a legal American. He was here legally. You can't send him off.
We know you knew it was a mistake.
And you even admitted it was a mistake. So you've got to bring him back.
So the one recourse we have is, okay, you have not brought him back yet. There's a line in the sand. Now you would be held in contempt. And it starts with the lawyers.
And it starts, well, that's right. And the district courts, that's the trial court level of the federal system. They would, and they're almost there. They've already threatened to hold those lawyers, those government lawyers, in contempt of court. And if you are issued a writ of contempt citation, and it's enforced against you, that means you can be fined. You can go to prison. I mean, it's very rarely used, but this is the ultimate weapon that the courts have. And this bill, embedded in this bill, is a provision that takes away.
Contempt is irrelevant, it basically says.
It says, we're holding you, the judges, in contempt. We have contempt for all of the judiciary. You no longer have this tool.
It's so scary. So it's in there now.
It's in there now.
But the next phase is we go to the Senate with the bill, right?
The Senate
which
next
we
week.
should talk about.
Yeah, the Senate next week will get this bill.
We assume it'll go through in some slightly adjusted form?
Well, the Senate has a chance to adjust it, to do whatever it wants. I mean, we have
but it might not,
two
it might just
chambers.
salute.
I think the hope I have, Heather, is you've got a number. They can afford to lose. The Republicans can afford to lose only 3, at most, senators, or they don't get the votes they need. This is even with J.D. Vance,
Right, exactly. So 3 or 4.
as vice president, holding the vote, and if there is a tie. And my hope is that you have at least 3 Republican senators who have some integrity or are afraid. I mean, there are about 14, is it 15? Yeah, it's 14 who are up for re-election in 2026. And this is Memorial Day weekend right now. This is your opportunity, folks. If you're in any of these states and you find out where they are this weekend and tell them you're not going to vote for them for re-election in 2026 unless they vote against this big, awful, big, disgusting bill.
With the biggest redistribution. That was wild to hear you say that. This is the biggest
redistribution of income and wealth in American history, but it is redistributing upward. It's not redistributing
in a single bill.
It's redistributing upward in a single bill. This is the distillation of what the Trump regime actually stands for. It is to make the rich richer and to essentially shaft everybody else. That's what they're doing.
And what does it mean for the debt? Because we've talked about this a little bit, but it floors me. I watched one of our old videos that was called The Big Switcheroo, where you really talk about how the rich used to pay a fairer share in their taxes, and that would go into the system. But now they're paying less, the debt is getting bigger, they invest in bonds, and we are reimbursing them. We are paying them back the interest. So the wealthy are getting wealthier and wealthier and wealthier.
And they're getting wealthier in a variety of ways. And the coverage of this has been horrible.
Or non-existent.
In fact, nobody's talking about this.
Let's go.
Okay, it's important because go back to the 1950s, 1960s, even under the Dwight Eisenhower administration. Now, Dwight Eisenhower, I'm old enough to remember... Republican president. He had been a general beforehand. He was kind of he was not anybody's image of a radical. He was a conservative, mainstream conservative Republican. Under Dwight Eisenhower, the top marginal tax rate that the richest of the rich paid in the United States was close to 92%.
Could you imagine?
Now, even with all deductions and credits, they were still paying a lot. They were paying way more than half of their income. That we're talking about their top income. Then you had Ronald Reagan come in, bring the top rate way, way down. Then you had George W. Bush bring the rate way down. And then you had Trump won. So right now, the richest of the rich are paying at a lower rate than many average Americans.
Yeah.
But who is financing? And how are they financing the government? They used to finance the government, the rich, through their tax payments. Now they're financing the government through their lending money to the federal government. That's where the bonds, the treasury bonds come in. And as we go deeper into debt, the rest of us pay more interest to the very rich who hold the debt. There's a mythology that most of the debt is being held by foreigners.
Right.
No, 70% is being held by wealthy Americans.
And how does the average person face this? I mean, it's in interest rates. It's in...
Well, it's basically in our payments, our tax payments. A bigger and bigger chunk of our tax payments go to interest on the federal debt. And as bondholders get more nervous about whether they're ever going to be paid back because the federal debt keeps growing, they demand more and more interest on that debt. And you can see right now, this is what's happening. Bond prices are going down, interests are going up, and who's raking it in? Again, the extremely wealthy people who hold these bonds, who are buying the bonds, and we are paying. So if you're an average American, you are paying more in taxes because of this big, awful, terrible bill. If you're an average American, you are losing your Medicaid, maybe your Medicare, maybe a lot of other things because of this big, awful bill. And if you're an average American, you are also going to be paying more in interest payments in your taxes to the very wealthy, and the higher interest payments and those higher interest rates are going to be spread to all sorts of things you might want. I mean, mortgage payments and car payments, they're all going to go up as long-term interest rates go up. You see, it's a threefer in terms of actually screwing the average working person.
All at the same time that the minimum wage has not kept up with productivity, right? So the incomes
of the typical working person that used to keep up with productivity gains, they have been stagnant, adjusted for inflation, certainly since Reagan.
This is a disaster.
It's a disaster, but they don't know about it. Most people don't know about it. And the Democrats aren't explaining it. Nobody is hearing about it. The Republicans certainly don't want it to be known. Fox News is certainly not making a big feature about it.
No.
60 Minutes should have a feature on it. But you know what happened to 60 Minutes?
I know.
The president of CBS News resigned. Sherry Redstone wants to sell a big chunk of her Paramount stock, and Paramount owns CBS, which runs 60 Minutes. And so you think 60 Minutes? I mean, this is enough to make somebody scream. It is.
Tell me when you're going to do it.
It is so utterly.
Can you imagine that this America, our America, is in this trouble and in this close to a dictatorship?
Here, this is really a very important issue because we've been on this road. This isn't just Trump. We've been on this road for a long time. It's never been this bad, obviously. Yeah. But in terms of big money coming in from the wealthy and big corporations influencing what Congress is doing, getting lower taxes on the very wealthy and on big corporations, the kind of bribery that has been institutionalized after Citizens United, the Supreme Court, and the system is so bad. And people, average working people, basically with flat wages, obviously at some point they're going to be in revolt. And when a so-called strongman like Trump comes along and says, well, I'm your person, I'm going to represent you, wink, wink to the wealthy, I'm really on your side, but I'm going to persuade people that I'm on their side. Well, this is not rocket science.
I know. So you have been charting this and the various things that have happened along the way that have led to this point. Tax cuts, the Powell memo, all of it. But here we are, and I didn't picture, you keep saying a silver lining.
There is a silver lining.
It is that we're going to have a reckoning. When it gets this bad, there's one place to go.
Yeah, there's a silver lining, and that is the more it's revealed, the more corruption, the more, and we haven't even got to this week's corruption story. But the worse it gets, the bigger the reaction. This is my analogy of the sleeping giant. America is a sleeping giant. We don't, the average American and the American system, most of us don't get riled up very easily. But we're getting to the point where people are catching on. They're catching on slowly, but they're catching on. And the more Trump expands and doesn't know any boundaries and just keeps on going with this dictatorial stuff, and also the personal corruption, and also the lack of due process, and the complete and utter obliteration of the court system and the usurpation of Congress, I think people are going, what?
I know.
How can he do this?
And then
the sleeping giant is going to wake up.
Okay. I'm waiting for it. I'm going to have breakfast in bed for that sleeping giant.
He's over there?
Stirring.
Yeah.
I see it stirring. Okay, so this week, trying to remember all that happened, but we had a visit from South Africa's president, came to the White House in what I would call an ambush of sorts. Watching Trump bring these foreign dignitaries in to be so horrific to them, more to some than others, right? We had Zelensky, we had the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa. It's not lost on me that one is Jewish and one is black. And Donald Trump goes after them. Watching what he did this week, it was so disgusting. Do you want to talk about it, or do I have to?
Well, you've started. You're charged up.
Yeah.
You go.
Well, he came in, and so what what Trump wanted to do was put him under his thumb and say, look at how bad white people have been treated in South Africa.
Well, I mean,
and use videos and use this white supremacist reality trope, all of it, in this man's face.
I mean,
with falsehoods.
It is falsehoods. I mean, these are lies. These are Trump lies. In fact, there is obviously violence in South Africa. There is violence a lot of other places, including the United States. But only 1% of the people who have been victims of violence are white, and a very small percentage of those white people in South Africa have actually been victims of any violence. This is a trumped-up issue, a trumped-up charge. And Elon Musk,
was in the room.
Former South African white person, was in the room. And look how convenient it is. If Trump wants to sell a kind of dog whistle, racism, what wonderful, easy way to do it than to blame another nation for being racist against white people. And sotto voce, we also have the same problem in the United States, Trump says.
It's classic, though. It's classic white supremacist tactics and apartheid tactics. But so what he did was he showed this video that had a number. So 2 white farmers, South African farmers, had been killed. And there was a memorial of sorts that was made that I think the person who made it has been talking about this and put all of these white crosses in the ground as a memorial. And so what Trump then said is each one of these, I'm paraphrasing, each one of these crosses is a burial site for a dead white farmer, is basically what he said. And the president of South Africa was looking at him like, this isn't correct. And then Trump had all these pieces of paper that someone had printed out for him saying, this is a story about how white Afrikaners are being obliterated. And this is a story. And one of them was actually from the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, not South Africa. But he just assaulted this man.
Well, we're talking about, there are 2 different issues. One is how rude Trump can be, if he wants to be, to a foreign dignitary who is an other. The other issue, though, is this concocted story, which also kind of blends into all of the refugees who are coming. I mean, he's opened the gates to refugees, white refugees from South Africa. What about all the people of color all over the world who are fleeing real violence? Well, no, they can't get in. In fact, they're being expelled, many of them, from the United States. I mean, this is dog whistle racism.
It's beyond dog whistle. I mean, it is just overt racism. And I feel like it's going to be, I mean, we knew he was racist before this.
Yes,
many people knew.
We knew it from the first
right.
First
and you know
term.
who really know
Lots
it?
of dog
people of color, right? It's like, come on, this is old news. But this is so blatant in a new way. Is there a hope that people see it in for what it is in a more obvious, lit up way?
Well, I hope so. I mean, it's also this, what he has done with DEI. Now, I'm going to say something that's going to get me in trouble. I said it this week at the graduation ceremonies where I gave a speech at Berkeley, at the School of Education. What is wrong with diversity, equity, and inclusion? I mean, these are principles that have to do with social justice. What's wrong with social justice? Suddenly we have people going around and all these companies and all these institutions are saying, we're closing our DEI offices. Why? Why exactly? I mean, these notions, diversity, equity, inclusion, are fundamental to this country. That's what we've been doing.
Right, and to learning, and to progress, and to improvement.
What was the entire civil rights movement was about? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, what
We're a melting pot. I mean, we learned that in third grade.
I think the Trumpers don't want us to be a melting pot.
I know.
They want us to be white and Christian and nativist, nationalist, and male-dominated. I mean, that is the underlying ideology here. And make no mistake.
I think we saw this in Project 2025.
Yeah, it was in there.
Remember?
Yeah.
And we warned about it, and we all looked at it.
But remember, Project 25 is a book.
Yeah, we have a 3-ring binder in the other room.
Yes, I know. And I've been through it too many times. But I think that people, first of all, Trump said he never read it. He said he didn't have anything to do with it.
Heritage Foundation who?
Russell Voigt, his OMB director from the first term and now OMB director in the second term. He wrote and was the primary mover behind Project 2025.
But a lot of it was telegraphed.
Yeah, it was. But it's all there. And Heather, the dictatorship, the dictatorial, the arbitrariness, the complete disregard of our Constitution and our system, the racism, and we haven't talked about the corruption.
I know. I keep thinking about it.
The overt corruption.
Well, so Ramaphosa was comedic when he said, "Sorry, I didn't have a plane to give you." Did you see that?
Yes.
I mean,
I think he was joking.
Oh, I think so
Trump
too.
Did not think of it as a joke.
It's like, I wish you did have one.
Because everybody is thinking about Qatar and that $400 million
But how embarrassing.
plane.
I mean, this is so obscene on so many levels. But this foreign dignitary who is so disrespected and lied to and made to look like a fool, even though so many of us obviously saw through it, not enough of us. But I mean, this is happening right in front of our faces and he talks about the plane as this man is taking this gift and pretending, it's a gift to the U.S. It's not really my gift. It's kind of my gift.
Let's be clear. This gift from Qatar, $400 million palace in the sky. Trump just has been salivating over this for months. This is a gift to Trump. This, again, the media is talking about this as a gift to the United States from Qatar. It would be bad enough.
They're trying to spin it that way.
But the White House is trying to spin it that way. But the fact of the matter is that after, assuming Trump ever does, after he leaves office, he gets to keep the plane. Yeah. It's not that it is like an Air Force One that any future president is going to be using. Yeah. No, this is Trump's private palace from Qatar. This is the Emoluments Clause of the Constitution prohibits these foreign gifts. The Emoluments Clause of the Constitution prohibits what happened Thursday night. I mean, a big meeting, a kind of dinner meeting with the president, have dinner with the president.
Well, for a price.
If you were among the 220 top bidders for his own personal coin.
He brought in almost $400 million.
Personally. Now, this goes into this is a very important distinction. I have talked, you've talked, we've talked for a long time about bribery in the form of the rich and big corporations giving people campaign contributions. That's bad enough. But what we're seeing now is something entirely different, Heather. This is foreigners who are giving the President of the United States money, gifts, big money, his own crypto operation, his own organization, his own corporation, his own pocket, his own family. I mean, we've not seen anything on this scale, anything like it.
What about Bob Menendez from New Jersey? Remember, he had gold bullion under the bed and some cash?
Yes, and what happened to him?
Right. I think it was 11 years in prison.
Gold bullion under the bed. If you get gold bullion, don't put it under the bed.
No, you put it on the mantle.
You put it on the mantle. You celebrate it.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm worth the gold bullion.
Earrings.
And we make a gold toilet out of it.
Well, but really, that is, to me, that was an example. Note, that's a Democrat, by the way, you can't do that. And where was the money, as I understand it, from the gold bullion? Egypt and Qatar.
Do you remember? You don't remember. Of course you don't remember.
Let's go. Here we go. I never remember when you ask if I remember in that tone.
I want to take us back to the beginning of the Eisenhower administration.
Yes.
Richard Nixon was going to be vice president. He was going to be nominated. This is 1952.
Okay.
I was 6 years old. And I remember it very well.
Vividly.
Because he came on television, Richard Nixon, and he had been accused of taking some gifts, some foreign gifts. Some gifts from political people, and he was so both embarrassed politically and in every other way.
That concept.
But he almost was taken off the ticket.
Right.
And he made this speech, and he said, I'm not rich. I'm very, very poor, and my wife is poor, and he held up a cloth coat, Pat Nixon. She doesn't wear furs. She doesn't have anything, but she just has this cloth coat, and here's my little dog. I mean, the only gift I've ever got that is really a gift, and my whole family loves this little dog, and the little Cocker Spaniel is named Checkers.
Yes.
That became the Checkers speech.
Right.
That was all about gifts. Now look where we are now. We've come from a little Cocker Spaniel, Checkers, to a $400 million...
Yeah, our checkered past.
Our checkered past
was better than our current.
Well, I think it's just
wow.
Everything gets normalized.
Right.
Ratcheted upward.
Including the bank accounts. I mean, we're kind of at this level.
It is, but again, I don't think what we are seeing now is ever, I hope, is never going to become normalized. Because if it's normalized, then forget it. We are a dictator. We're a monarchy. We are not anything close to a democracy.
And it's grim on so many levels, but I really think the world is sad for us, laughing at us. I mean, how can they have any respect?
I think I have friends, as I'm sure you do, as I'm sure many of you do, who are outside in other countries, and
Americans
they are,
and non-Americans, right?
And they are appalled. They are appalled. There was a stage when they would laugh at us. They're not laughing now. They are in shock, as we are. And the thing that's very important, Heather, and I tell people this in the United States, if you are in shock and depressed about what is going on, you are not alone. Most people, if polls are to be believed, most people in the United States are shocked and sickened by what is happening. But again, silver lining, the reaction, the kickback is going to be bigger than ever because of what's happening.
It has to be. And we already have some seeds. And I do think of hope that the courts have had some wins. We can't forget that. And his polling numbers are down. I mean, every week I look at the polling numbers and have a little sense of relief.
His polls are collapsing.
Yeah.
And particularly, I mean, he hasn't even put the tariffs on yet.
Well,
I mean, when the tariffs go on.
And they really hit.
And
Yeah.
people are going to be paying more. And even, every time Amazon or Walmart says we are going to have to be charging more because of the tariffs, he slams them.
Yeah.
He says, don't do that.
You and I talked about that on last week's Klatch, and we predicted it.
But it's going to, it's inevitable. I mean, the tariffs are taxes.
Yeah.
And put together everything we've said about this bad, beautiful, terrible, awful, ugly, gigantic bill.
No good, very bad.
And the tariffs. And think of what is happening or going to happen to average working people if all of this thing
But he is so
happens.
rich. He is so fine.
He?
Ugh.
You mean Elon?
No, the king.
The king. King Donald.
Yeah. I feel like he's just patting his pockets and just...
Well, and remember, this is important, the 250th anniversary of the founding of the Continental Army.
Yes.
That was the beginning of the revolution.
Semi-quincentennial.
Occurred on June 14th. Washington became general on June 15th, 250 years ago. June 14th is the day that, Trump's birthday happens to be June 14th. He's planning a big military parade, as dictators do. And then you have, on that day, this is a very important protest day. All of you, you're going to be out there, June 14th, No King's Day. We don't want a king. We refuse to have a king. We fought against King George III, and we're not going to allow King Donald to become king.
We have a constitution.
We have a constitution.
Let's follow it.
And let's...
But so June 14.
June 14th.
No kings.
No kings.
Did you read that Washington Post article about mental health amongst federal workers?
I did.
It was so gut-wrenching.
It was. And I want to, maybe this is a good place and time to say this, because we have to come to a close. But I think that we should, in these sessions, Heather, I think we should really thank people and express gratitude. And the federal workers, who I know, federal workers, you probably know people who have been working in the public sector, who have been toiling for the public. I mean, many of these people could do much better in the private sector. The education, the typical education level in the public sector is higher than it is in the private sector. They could make more money in the private sector with their education. They are now being treated like, if you pardon the expression, shit. Join me in, I want to toast you federal workers, you civil servants, you people who are doing the work that is so critical to the public at federal and state levels and even local levels. You are critically important. What you do is noble. What you do should be honored and should be recognized. And you shouldn't be treated as you are being treated. Nobody should be. So we appreciate you.
Yes, including people who no longer have their jobs.
Including people who no longer have their jobs.
Jobs.
You know, we went from a New Deal to a new frontier. Remember the Kennedy days? And now we are in, I hate to say it, a new fascism.
Oh.
And we are going to fight this new fascism. You are fighting it. We are fighting it every day, and we will win. Thank you all. Jordan Alport, thank you for being our technician today. Michael Lahanas Calderon, thank you. And
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Heather. We'll see you next week.
And by the way, where do they want to put all the money? All the savings. All the savings from, and it's not that much savings, from cutting health and safety and pension protections and protections of wage and hour. Where do they want to put all the savings from cutting education and training? They want to give it to a big, fat tax break in the form of a big, fat capital gains tax break to the people who need it least, to the people whose incomes have been rising, the top people who are their friends. Make no mistake about what is going on right now in Washington.